Okay, I know it's taking me a month to do this video, but I've been sick with a head cold, as I'm sure you can probably hear in my voice, and I've been busy with school and work, so yeah. My throat is still kind of sore and hurts because of my cold, so I'm sorry if the audio is, terrible. But there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to drink a bunch of water and hope for the best. But I've been putting this off for long enough. So this will be chapters 9 through 12 of The Art of War by EveryShadeOfHappy on AO3. Chapter 9. Teacher's Reaction to Izuku's Bullshit. Summary. The teacher's point of view on the proceedings so far. The teachers had freaked out when barely 2 minutes in, almost 5 blocks of the test grounds had gone up in flames. Currently, Power Loader is in the corner mourning the amount of repairs in his future. But it got eerily quiet when Adora stepped out of the flames, looking like the definition of a goddess. Aizawa watches the screen calmly. The heroes had gone in, and before they could even get situated, the villains had started their attack. In front of the heroes stand Adora, using the alias Iris. He wouldn't admit it, but a small part of his heart was warmed at the way she'd grown in leaps and bounds in the last month. Adora had always been brash and loud, good for a laugh, but much like Bakugo, she used her loud demeanor to hide her insecurities. The truth of the fact is that Adora had no confidence in herself or her quirk, and hid it behind being the loudest in the room, or at least fighting Bakugo for that position. She didn't use her full potential, even though she had probably the most powerful and versatile quirk, followed closely by Momo. The quirk test had quickly proven that she wasn't using her full potential, barely any at all, in fact. Normally, Aizawa wouldn't have hesitated to expel her. The hero world had no place for someone who couldn't give each mission their all, because it was the kind of thing that got you or a civilian killed. But when Aizawa had been about to expel her, he'd noticed her eyes. They were sparkling with determination, and even though she barely used her quirk, she physically put her all into every task. He could see how badly she wanted this, so he didn't expel her, or any of them in fact, because when it came down to it, he could see the potential hiding in all of their eyes. And now he could see the potential coming out, and it was breathtaking. No, he hadn't made a mistake in not expelling her. For the first time this year, Adora stands tall, her smile real as she reveals her true power. He's proud of her, not that he'll admit it to her face. "Where did she get katanas?" questions 13, who's clenching the blanket on her lap. This was the most explosive start to the exam they'd ever had. The heroes, who have trained them, only smiled. This was exactly what they expected after a month of watching their progress. It doesn't mean they aren't surprised when Bakugo goes down in one hit. Mike nearly chokes on his drink as he sees the leader of the hero team crumple to the ground. That was brutal, All Might whispers sympathetically. Nezu is in the corner cackling. God, if this is what he's like after 5 minutes, what would he be like by the end? Aizawa can't help but be disappointed in the heroes. Adora barely did anything, and she still took out 2 of the heroes and burned down several streets. And the heroes had frozen, except for a few. The only ones currently passing would have to be Sue and Ida, for their quick thinking. Ida had proven himself a sharp leader, able to take control in chaos, and Sue had at least attempted to attack Adora, unlike the rest. The others only stood there until ordered. And while it's a good thing to be able to listen to orders, they also need to be able to think for themselves and make split-second decisions in tense situations. Aizawa's pride in the villains only grows as the day goes on, and his disappointment in the heroes grows as well. Even after that explosive start, they didn't take this seriously. It was genuinely pathetic, and he thought that he had taught his class better than that. And it didn't seem like his opinion would change anytime soon. Currently, all of the heroes are chasing 2 of the villains who are blasting Taylor fucking Swift and making fools of them. They didn't leave anyone at their base. That was a mistake, notes Snipe. They're focusing on the obvious threat, but it's also obvious that it's a diversion. It's allowing the other villains to get tasks done without being disturbed. They've completed the museum and the bank tasks without the heroes even noticing. 13 whispers. Looking a little sick, it's All Might who speaks what most of the others have been thinking. They are extremely efficient villains, he points out, as Denki crashes the tank through a building after killing Ida and Jirota. God, he told Ida again and again not to prioritize speed over flexibility. If you focused only on being the fastest you could be, then you would get blindsided and be unable to dodge attacks, as Monoma had just done. Vlad King looked proud of Monoma. He'd been pleasantly surprised at how Monoma had set aside his grudge, and now he was performing at full potential. Ectoplasm leaves to fetch the dead heroes. They wouldn't go over what the heroes did wrong until after the test ends. Until then, they would be stuck in a waiting room where they could watch the test unfold. Sorry. Aizawa glances at the cameras in the villain's base. The people who weren't off doing tasks were doing various other tasks. Some were eating, others were gathered around a card game, or in May's case, she was tinkering with various pieces of machinery. It was domestic. He glances back at the camera in time to watch Bakugo realize the diversion. Maybe he wasn't too hopeless. The others are already on the way back. He sends one person as backup, which is good, but it still makes Aizawa annoyed. He should have sent more. He needed to stop underestimating the villains. The mistakes were getting ridiculous. Ectoplasm sends a clone to pick up Tokoyami, who is deemed dead after Monoma utterly decimates him with electricity. And then, Nezu is back to cackling as Kirishima is sent plunging out of a window 6 stories up. The look of utter betrayal is a bit funny. The heroes get an alert and manage to make it to the museum before the villains escape, but they are still unsuccessful, and another hero is dead. Ectoplasm is sent out once again. 4 heroes in one fucking day. It was a record. Aizawa watches once again as the villains spend the night causing chaos. The heroes are too late to respond, and the villains are quickly completing objectives. At this rate, they might be done before the second day is over. 2 more heroes die by Monoma's hand, who is proving himself terrifying, and Sato is killed by gunshot. Mizuku pulls the strings from the dark. He still goes out and completes the tasks as well, but his strengths lie in directing his teammates on how to win. After Sue and Kanoko are electrocuted to death and collected by Ectoplasm along with Sato, All Might speaks up. "We should call off the test." Aizawa glares at him. "Why?" "What do you mean, why? The villains are winning. It will lower the morale of the heroes. This is getting ridiculous. Honestly, I'm not sure what such villainous students are doing in the hero program." Aizawa stands, outraged. "The fuck do you mean by that?" "Calm down, Sho," Mike whispers, reaching for his hand, only to have Aizawa throw it off. "No, Zashi. I want to know what he means by that." All Might clears his throat, but doesn't back away from the red-eyed glare. "It should be obvious. The heroes are supposed to win. How could a hero student become so dedicated to being evil? They don't even look like they're struggling. It's not heroic, and this will only cause the hero team to doubt themselves." Aizawa scoffs. "That's your argument. You do realize that everything the villains are doing, a hero has had to do in the past. Both sides of this test are important. It shows where you're at as a hero, no matter the outcome. If you weren't so dense, you would realize that the heroes are learning that failure is inevitable, and that they shouldn't be cocky or underestimate their opponents. They are learning valuable skills a hero should have, ones they need to learn if they want to be halfway decent heroes that don't die or kill a civilian." He points at the screen, to the villains who are now relaxing and celebrating the success of the night, as the heroes grow grim with the possibility of losing. And the villains? If they chose to be villains, it was for a reason, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but they are learning teamwork, how to trust their teammates, and that sometimes to complete the objective, they have to do unsavory things. One day, those kids will have to kill, and they need to be prepared for it. Don't call them villainous for trying to do their best, for wanting to grow stronger. They are winning because they put the effort in. By the end of his rant, All Might is against a wall, and Aizawa is breathing hard. He lets Zashi pull him down, keeping his glare on All Might. How fucking dense could he be? Nezu, who had watched the exchange gleefully, finally speaks. Aizawa is correct, All Might. All of the students are learning valuable lessons. Do not discount them simply because you do not understand. Aizawa turns back to the screen, still agitated as All Might quietly sits down. It's going to be quiet the next few hours as the villains sleep, but Aizawa knew that it would go to hell once Izuku awoke. Out of everyone Aizawa is proud of, and it has to be Izuku he's most proud of. He's the reason the villains were winning. While he won't admit it, Izuku has a magnificent magnetic force that causes people to want to gravitate toward him, and he helped those people shine. That boy, he didn't want to be a hero, but he was still kind and so fucking smart. Whoever had hurt that kid was going to answer to Aizawa, because Izuku had the heart of a hero, no matter what Izuku himself said. He deserves the chance to grow up to his potential, and Aizawa wanted to be the one to do it. He wanted to watch that kid, his kid, walk across the stage with a license in hand. Ida stares up at the screen that seems to be mocking him every second. He had failed. He had forgotten everything Aizawa-sensei had taught him, and now he had been killed and forced to the sidelines, and it was painful to watch all of the heroes fail so badly. They had truly failed. He couldn't even call himself a hero at this rate. None of them could. And looking at the other dead heroes, and not one villain, he could tell they thought the same thing. Izuku's eyes fly open. The second day has started, and the heroes were going to regret not surrendering the day before. And that is the end of Chapter 9. We're going to move on to Chapter 10. Chapter 10. Summary. The second day. The second day starts out normally. In fact, it's quiet, which sets the heroes on edge. After a breakfast of water and porridge, the heroes are sent out in shifts to patrol. One person constantly sits at their database, so if any more alerts happen, they will catch them. It seems that the heroes are finally learning. When it's Bakugo's turn to patrol at noon, finally something exciting happens. He looks everywhere, but his mask is nowhere to be seen. Hey, you fucking extras, which one of you took my fucking mask? He doubles over. It feels like something in his stomach is trying to erupt. He collapses to his knees and begins to gag. He's not the only one. Almost all of the others are on the ground, sitting in their own vomit. Bile rises in Bakugo's throat, and he's quick to do the same. Kendo whimpers from where she's curled up on her side. Did we all get food poisoning? She moans before turning her head to finish releasing the contents of her stomach. Hello? Hello? This is Patrol Team C? Something's... Send help. We can't stop throwing up. Bakugo twists around. That was Mina. Ugh. A voice comes over the comms once again, but this time it's not a hero team. It's fucking Deku. I see you're having a little trouble with your breakfast. Well, it won't do to have our little game over so fast, but we needed you out of our way for just a little bit. And you guys were so intent on chasing us last night, you didn't even realize that we infiltrated your base last night. Pops go off weakly in Bakugo's hand, but it quickly stops when his stomach cramps once again. We poisoned your water supply, nothing lethal. But if you don't want to be declared dead in the next few hours from poison intake and dehydration, you'll need the antidote, which only we have. I'd be glad to make an exchange, the antidote for Kirishima. We didn't finish him off last time, and we feel that it's such a shame. You have about an hour to decide. Toodles! The comms shut off. Kendo looks desperate. We have to. This could wipe out our entire team and make all of us fail the exam. Bakugo snarls. There's no fucking way he's agreeing to that. Fuck no, we're heroes, we don't bargain with villains. So your stupidity will get us all killed and failed? Todoroki lifts his face up. We have no choice. Bakugo lies face down, his chest heaving. He couldn't. That was his fucking best friend. It's decided, though, when Kirishima's voice comes over the comms. I'm on my way back. I have to do this. We are the heroes, and heroes have to make sacrifices. If it means we still have a chance to win, then we have to. You can't stop me, Bakubro. Do you hear that, you stupid villains? We'll do it. Excellent. We'll be there within an hour. We have a few errands to run first. Deku fades off of the comms with a deadly cackle. Kendo quickly speaks. Let's take a head count here at the base. We have myself, Bakugo, Todoroki, Pony, Aoyama, Hagakure, Jiro, Kaminari. Oh wait, no, not Kaminari. Jiro, Kamakiri, Shiozaki, Kosai, and Kojiro. On Mina's patrol group, we have Mina, Mineta, Awasa, and Kaibara. On Kirishima's, we have Tetsu, Ojiro, Rin, and Manga. Kirishima is on his way back, and the villains are on their way here. We're probably in the most danger, and the heroes on patrol the safest. The villains have no way of knowing where they are. Todoroki nods. That's true. We were about to switch patrols, though, so most likely the patrol teams are semi-close. Should we be worried about them slaughtering us? Of fucking course we should. They're villains, and not once have they not acted like fucking villains this entire goddamn exercise. This is probably a ploy to kill us all. Pony looks as thoughtful as someone who is curled up in a pain can look. Well, I think they have. Her and Jiro are the only others in the room, but Bakugo can hear moans of pain close by. It must suck to be out of the loop. He talked to them, but he can't even move. The hell do you mean by that? Bakugo growls. Think about it. They could have ended this from the beginning. We have not been acting very heroically. We obviously need some serious growth to do, but the villains have been messing with us, even with our leader unconscious at their feet. They didn't make the killing blow. Instead, they've been doing villainous acts. I know that our goal is to capture the villains, so it makes sense for the villains to have a goal, right? Kendo shakes her head slowly. Their goal is probably to act as villainously as possible. I can't believe that our friends and classmates could possibly be this cruel otherwise. Most likely, they've just been too nervous to kill Bakugo. He is rather scary, and they don't really want to be villains. Pony hums in thought. Well, you've always been right before. You're probably right now, too. The only sound for a while is the pained groans of the heroes and the crackling of the silent comms. Bakugo is thrust from his pain-induced haze when he hears the comms crackle on and Mina screaming in agony. No! No! What the hell are they doing? It lasts for about a minute, with the other patrol members joining. Then it suddenly goes dead. Before Bakugo can untense or bring himself to check the alerts, the comms come through. And this time it's Kirishima's team. No Kirishima, though, thank God. He presses his sweat-slickened skin to the ground, hiding his face, and lets a few tears fall. Nobody can see his fucking weakness, but god damn it, if they're actually dead, that is 9 members gone in minutes. And when he brings himself to look, it's written there in red. 8 dead, and Kirishima missing. If only he could get... He growls and shoves at the ground. He can't just lay here and take this. But as soon as he's even a little above the ground, the nausea hits full force and forces him to the ground. Bakugo howls in frustration. He has never felt so fucking useless. Why can't he just... Bakubro, calm down. You're here. Did you hear? Kirishima slumps into a chair. He looks awful. Now how he walked here, even if it was a couple blocks, is insane. Yeah, I had my comms the whole time. We were close by. They have to be almost here. He's panting and clutching at his stomach. Bakugo wants to reach out, but he stops himself. I'm sorry. Kendo looks even iller than herself, and her eyes are haunted. Bakugo is still sure they are all a little traumatized after that. His friends sounded like they were in anguish. Footsteps echo through the hall. Ka-chan! It's Deku, of course. He came himself. Bakugo tries to get to his knees again, but he's stopped with a boot on it to his back. Oh, look at the poor baby heroes. Did you hear your friends die? I turned the comms on just for that reason. Bakugo takes a weak swipe at Deku. Fucking bastard. It's okay. It hurt a lot more than it sounded. Kendo's breath catches. It felt like she was facing off with real villains, not just her classmates. Behind Midoriya are 3 of his teammates, all silent. One is obviously Shoji, who was quick to scoop up Kirishima. The other 2 have no identifying marks, though. She hasn't seen them, and if the purple and pink hair say anything, they have to be wigs. So, for once, they're hiding their abilities. Give us the damn antidote, Deku, you useless villain. You shouldn't call the person holding your one hope to stay in the game names. Say please. Maybe it will make me go easy on Kirishima. Bakugo grits his teeth and slowly says, please. Good boy. He tosses a bag of gummies to Kendo. They quickly take their leave. Kendo throws a gummy to each of them, and within 15 minutes they feel their bodies going back to normal. We need to see the damage. We don't have time to rest. Everyone nods, and they spread out. Each of them have a handful of gummies to negate the effects of the others. Heroes spread around the base. An hour later, everyone is gathered back in the main chamber, a little green and queasy, but able to move around. In the end, not only did the villains kill off the patrols, but they killed Aoyama and Shiozaki. Bakugo wasn't certain they could have saved Shiozaki anyway. With her plants, she needs more water than average, so she drank more of the poisoned water, which meant she would have puked way more. Either way, half of his team is gone and 1 is kidnapped. And for some reason, they'd also left a small cut on Jiro. So, we have myself, Bakugo, Todoroki, Pony, Jiro, Hagakure, Kamakiri, Kosai, and Kojiro. That's still enough to beat them, Kendo encourages, but most of them look away. No, we can't. They led us on since the beginning, and we aren't getting anywhere, even after we started the patrols and monitoring the control panel. And I'm not sure if you realize this, but they also kidnapped and killed a civilian. But it's late afternoon by now. Kirishima is gone. There's only 9 of us left, and 1 day left, and no leads as to where they are. Admit it, we are failures, Hagakure sobs. Kendo flinches. It's true, they have utterly failed. They gave us that warning. We have until the end of the day to surrender. I'm not sure what else they can do after humiliating us so much, but maybe we should, Jiro whispers, looking at Bakugo. He flinches at the assumption they should just give themselves up. No, we aren't fucking quitting. Well, what should we do? Cries Pony. Bakugo huffs. He hated acting like a leader. Why the hell are we training to be heroes? The other heroes pause to think. When they land on their answer, they slowly speak one by one. To help people, that's it, Kendo says calmly. Same, honestly. I want to be a good hero people can look up to. I want to help people, to defeat my father. To help, I want to help people, Jiro whispers softly. Bakugo nods as if that's what he expected. This is obviously just a test, but that also means we need to give it our all. What says giving it our all by giving up? We're supposed to learn something from this shit, right? I want to be the number 1, and win. That means I can't give up when it gets hard, and neither can you. The hell are you going to do when you want to save someone but it gets hard? You just get back up, he stands. Yeah, we might lose, and I sure as hell don't want to, but that doesn't warrant not giving it all we've got. We treat that kidnapped civilian like a real civilian and get it back, and Kirishima hasn't been announced dead yet, so who's with me? Surprisingly, Bakugo's words affect them, and they all rise, cheering. They can still win this. Back at the villain base. Kirishima has been hogtied and left next to a robot and ectoplasm? Oh god, have they actually gone off the rails? Ecto-sensei? Why are you here? This is not in the rules, is it? Ectoplasm shrugs. I'm just a clone and an objective. I'll be leaving soon. Objective? You guys were almost done, the pink-haired girl who had been there when they picked up Kirishima laughs excitedly. She throws off her mask, and Kirishima blanches. Wait, that's not a hero course student, Sensei. They're cheating. Ectoplasm sighs. No, they aren't. Nowhere does it say that you only need a hero students. As long as they're in your grade, you can use them. They just exploited the loopholes. Ectoplasm stands up. Alright, you've completed the objectives, and it's time for me to go, but I would like to talk to Midoriya first, if that's okay, May. The pink-haired girl laughs in Ecto-sensei's face, which makes Kirishima wince. Why were they acting so villainous? No way! If the objective is complete, you can go, but Izukan doesn't want to see you, you butthead. Ecto-sensei sighs. Of course, we will have to talk eventually, but I understand now might not be the best time to do it. I will go. With that, the clone dissipates. Kirishima is left with the other masked person as May heads out. In the other room, the villains are excitedly chattering. We're almost done. We need to break someone's arm, burn down the hero base, kill the civilian we kidnapped, and destroy the hero team, squeals Adora. Izuku nods happily. Yep, we're basically taking a rest day. We are going to do a fake torture video on Kirishima, the armored civilian, and then the rest can be used for whatever. I was actually hoping, Setsuna? Yeah? You can regenerate limbs. Would you be willing to sacrifice an arm to the cause? Setsuna is happy to oblige, and quickly they execute the rest of the tasks. Shinso brainwashes Kirishima to scream like he's being killed, just like he did with the other hero patrols. With CGI and a couple tweaks, the heroes would think they tortured him to death. They weren't monsters. They obviously just did fake slits, but made it seem like they were being tortured for the hero patrols. It went against their code to do that much damage for no reason. The civilian bot is dispatched, and with that, they are done. They send off the video at dusk and happily settle down. They, of course, also killed Kirishima, so now he's gone. All in all, it was much easier than their first day, but with just as much chaos. And tomorrow, they will end it. Hero Base. The heroes had spent the rest of the day fruitlessly searching for signs of the villain base. What greeted them at their base was just the cherry on top of an awful day. A video message from their rivals, the villain team. They open it. Kirishima is sitting behind a masked figure, bloody and bruised. Well, it's been fun, and I thought I would leave you with a parting gift. The heroes proceed to watch the ruthless torture of the nicest guy they'd met, who sounded like he was dying. Several of the heroes threw up. Bakugo just snorts. It's CGI, you guys. If they had really done it, the test would be called off. Bakugo tried to put on a strong front, but he'll admit he's still a little bit worried it actually happened. And when at the end of the villains asked for a final showdown in the park, Bakugo was happy to accept. No more games or trickery, just a brawl. And those villains would finally see what the heroes could do. Teachers. Throughout the day, All Might tried to get them to call off the test. The villains are being unnecessarily brutal and using cowardly tactics. It is unfair to the heroes. I believe we should immediately fail the villains. Most of the other heroes laughed it off. All Might was the #1 hero. Of course he didn't understand. It's Aizawa who once again voices those thoughts, though. Honestly, All Might, you've been #1 for a very long time. All you deal with are those big flashy brawls. Of course you don't get it. They're being smart. They can't just do a big brawl. They die immediately. They deserve as good of a chance as anyone. Not to mention, this is how heroics really are. Not big fancy brawls, but villains in the shadows that are hard to catch. Own up to being a fucking baby, All Might. Yagi had been pissed off, but shut up when Nezu joins the conversation. Not to mention, they are actually being quite gentle. They use enough force it's considered a killing blow, But they never actually hurt anyone. Yes, they gave the heroes a tummy ache. They also cured it. Please stop acting so rashly. Instead, notice how they never break the boundaries they set. They are still heroes inside. You just don't see it. At that, All Might finally shuts up, and Aizawa watches his kids with pride. Tomorrow was the end, and he just knew the villains would be victorious, and even the heroes were slowly learning something. And that is the end of Chapter 10. Let's move on to Chapter 11. Second to last chapter, let's go. Chapter 11, The Third Day. Summary, the third day. The villains are quiet this morning. They know that after this, things will change exponentially. Their old friends will be mad at them, and would their new friends even want to stay? More than that, what if after all this work, they still lost? The heroes still had some heavy hitters. And what about Midoriya? The one who brought them together and helped hone their talents and bring out the confidence in them. He doesn't want to be a hero. Would they even see him after this? The greenette in question glances over at the moping villains. He's currently in front of a mirror, painting war paint on his face that mimics Bakugo's hero mask. He sighs. They haven't ever been this morose. He clears his throat to get his friend's attention. We have a while until we have to meet the heroes. And after all, we did choose the meeting spot. Why would we be on time? It gets a chuckle from the quiet group. Can I speak to you all individually, like we did when we first met for real? A murmur of agreement goes through the room. They all eventually get up and leave except for Adora. He pats the seat in front of him and grabs the rainbow paints. Ugh, why did I say pants? Anyways, she sits in front of him with a wobbly smile. Hey, Teach. He laughs and brings a paintbrush up to her face. Don't cry, okay? She nods. So, I just wanted to talk to you about the progress you made. I know you guys call me Teach to tease me, but you guys are my friends. I've never had one of those before. And I know after today it's going to be hard. We probably scared some of our teachers, although they didn't stop us, so obviously not too much. The heroes will be bitter, and we're not going to be together every day. But some things are going to stay the same. Adora nods slowly. She's still not convinced, but she doesn't want to say so Izuku forges forward. We're going to have movie nights and still hang out. We will stick together until the others see reason. Adora starts to smile. And you? You'll be in Gen Ed? Izuku sighs. Maybe not. Adora stares, and when the words fully register, she shrieks in joy and leaps forward. Luckily, Izuku is done with her makeup. He accepts the hug, and when the beaming girl pulls away, he puts his finger to his lips. Don't tell anyone. I want to tell them myself. She nods and bolts out. The following conversations flow in the same way. He breaks the news that he's going to transfer and reassures them that they can deal with the blowback. Everyone leaves with their faces painted in their signature colors. Monoma and Denki are the last ones, and the ones that Izuku's been avoiding. Ever since May spoke to him the first night, he can't help the feeling of warmth that spreads through him at the thought of them. But he understands that he's going to have to man up sometimes, so he calls them in. He starts on Denki's face first, carefully painting lightning that covers his face in a streak of gold and black. Izuku is talented enough that it almost looks like real electricity crackling across his face. I'm transferring. I'll have conditions, but I'm transferring. Denki gasps. Is that why everyone had come out looking so excited? Monoma pretends to be calm about it, nodding sagely. No way, Izuku! I'm so excited, WTF! Denki leaps at him, and Monoma, as cool as he's trying to act, immediately follows. Izuku breathes in their combined scent, morning rain and lemons. It shouldn't work, but it does. I'm so proud of you. Of all of you guys. You all have come so far in less than a month. And even if we don't win, we've made it farther than anyone has ever made it as villains. And you guys are so strong. I would have never decided to switch without you guys. I gave up on being a hero a long time ago, but you made me remember why I used to want to be a hero, to help people. And that's thanks to all of you, so thank you. Denki sniffles, and when he opens his mouth, he immediately regrets it. Go on a date with me. Monoma scoffs at the two bright red teens he's laying on. No, go out with me. Monoma shoves at Denki when he sits up. Denki scowls, shoves back. Izuku laughs and pulls them both in close. I like both of you, so can I go on a date with both of you too? Both of the boys pretend to grumble, but immediately agree. With that decided, Izuku finishes Monoma's war paint, and then they exit the room. It breaks out in cheers at the sight of Izuku wedged in between the two blondes. Izuku looks at everyone fondly. They all finally wear their villain garb, leather armor and flowing dresses in every color. It looks a little out of place next to the machine guns and grenades they are carrying, but Izuku thinks everyone looks amazing, down to Adora's katanas and Mei's phoenix wings. Are you ready to kick some hero butt? Another cheer goes up as they all raise their weapons and voices to the roof. Tears in his eyes, he nods for the hatch. Let's go then. They travel in tunnels for a couple minutes until they come to the place that opens up in front of the hero's base. When they stand in daylight, Izuku nods at Mei. Care to do the honors? Mei gladly does. As she sends 3 of the villains around the base with gasoline, all of the heroes are out for the fight about to happen, so they aren't going to roast anyone alive. When the villains come back, Mei brings out her flamethrower, and with a manic giggle, sets fire to the gasoline. The base takes no time at all to go up in flames, and everyone's a little scared at how much fun Mei had at the arson she just committed. With their second-to-last task completed, the villains make their way to the aforementioned meeting place. The heroes are spread out defensively, watching every shadow with jumpy eyes. The last 2 days have worn down on them, and at this point, they just want to capture the villains and sleep for the next 62 hours. Pony spots the villains first. You guys! The heroes turn to where she's pointing. Spread out in one line and walking in unison are the villains. They mostly operated from the shadows the entire time, so it's the first time seeing them in their villain gear all together. And they look terrifying, but beautiful at the same time. Strapped down to their toes with knives, swords, and even machine guns, armor that is fitted to their body, and the thin crowns that decorate their brow. They look ready for war. Several of the heroes step back at the sight of Adora. God, when had they gotten so terrifying? Even though they had definitely learned that the villains made good villains. Ultimately, they operated from the shadows. Stupidly, they had decided that meant they would be easy to beat in a one-on-one fight. Now looking at the villains' confident and relaxed stances, it didn't look like that would be the case. You've been fucking with us this entire time, Deku, but you're going down. All of you are. Bakugo doesn't allow the villains to speak, and he launches forward. Everyone else follows his lead, and soon they are in a clash for their lives. Pony goes against Artemis, who dodges gracefully. She spins around and taps Pony against the horns. Immediately, she begins to float up, and Artemis is quick to reach for a paint-filled arrow. A few seconds later, Pony is declared dead, her chest spattered with midnight paint. Hagakure sneaks up on Zeus, not seeing the electricity coursing close to his skin, and electrifies herself until Zeus takes mercy on her and kills her. Her and Pony sit on the sideline, no longer a priority to the villains and unable to help their teammates. Hypno traps Todoroki in his siren spell and is quick to get him out as well. With every hero that dies, the heroes surprisingly fight harder. Monoma takes out Kendo, using Bakugo's explosions to knock her unconscious. Bakugo froze for a second. When had Monoma even touched him? The heroes fight for their lives, but every attempt to kill a villain is thwarted by another villain. As they engage in a deadly dance, each step is calculated. The villains overwhelming the exhausted heroes, and in the middle of the chaos stands Bakugo and Izuku, in the deadliest dance ever. Every swing that Bakugo swings is filled with content and the intent to kill. "You're never going to win, you shitty Deku!" Izuku scowls and dodges another swing, ducking under the arm and bringing his knee into Bakugo's stomach. The blonde dry heaves and nearly collapses to the ground, but keeps going. He will always keep going until he can't. But no matter what, Bakugo can't get his hand on Deku. And, as more of his teammates fall, more villains join the fight against him. Nick leaps through Bakugo's own shadow to attempt to strangle him. Adora sends licks of flames at his feet. Izuku keeps him busy and unable to retaliate. It's Denki who eventually brings him down. Deku smiles at him, the one that always screamed that he was looking down on him, and arms wrapped around his torso tight. "Sorry, bro, but I wanted to win." With that, Denki unleashes... "Sorry, bro, but I want to win." With that, Denki unleashes a measured amount of electricity until Bakugo collapses. Twitching on the ground, Ares leans down. "Do you know how to win a war? You make allies who are willing to help you. You pushed everyone away, and when they were in trouble, you threw them to the wolves. You didn't lead a team. You led what you thought of as extras, but they aren't, and they could have won if they had decent leadership. It's your fault. I know you know that, but unlike all of the other times, I hope you can actually learn from this." The end of the game is officially called, and the villains collapse to the ground in tears. "We did it! Yes!" They collapse onto each other, tears of relief and body paint mixing together. In contrast, the heroes are quiet and nursing the many wounds they received trying to fight the absolute beasts the villain team had turned into. The teachers show up with stretchers, and the villains are escorted away. No, Kendo has to remind herself, not the villains anymore, her classmates. The burn of betrayal and the anger of losing churns in her gut, as it burns in all of the heroes' guts. She wants to hate her classmates for doing that, for going so overboard, but in reality, the heroes just weren't prepared. There was never a way they were going to win this. She's escorted onto the stretcher by Ecto-sensei. "They did a number on all of you, didn't they?" Kendo flinches. The explosions that had taken her out still echoing in her ears. "Yeah, they did. We failed, didn't we, Sensei?" She whispers. He sighs. "Not all of you. Some of you did okay. And while as a team you failed, yes, this was also graded on individual scores as well. So some of you passed, I'm sure." Kendo nods. At least she still might have passed. It's officially over. The heroes and former villains are kept separate for the weekend. They are told of what will happen by the hero teachers. "We won't go over everything wrong you all did currently. These last 3 days have been tough on everybody. Hound Dog's door is always open. I highly suggest you use him. Most everyone does after this exercise. We know that tensions are high right now, so for now, you will all be separated. Yes, on Monday we will meet to dissect the test. Be ready to tell us what you did wrong and right then. Enjoy your days off." The hero team is relieved to not have to discuss their failure so soon, and many do take up the Hound Dog offer. It helps ease the sting. But still, when Monday comes, nobody is ready to discuss the consequences of this test. They all share a classroom that day, and when they slowly walk in, it's only to blanch at the sight of the former Gen Ed students, Shinso and Midoriya, in the classroom in hero student uniforms. Midoriya with a deadly gleam in his eye, and when their teachers walk in with a sadistic look on their eyes. Both teams gulp. This was going to be hell. And that is the end of chapter 11. Now we're going to move on to chapter 12, which is the last chapter. So, yeah. Chapter 12, the end. Aizawa and Vlad King glare at the first-year students. They shuffle uncomfortably under the stifling weight of disappointment. Before we get started with the discussion of everything the heroes and villains did wrong, let's hear some self-reflection. Where do you think the teams could have improved? Vlad King finally asks. Everyone relaxes and Mina's hand shoots up. The villains were way too violent. She glares at the blank-faced hero students. Wrong. They acted as villains. And they stuck to their act. There was nothing wrong with that. Mina pouts and slumps deeper into her desk. Koda slowly raises his hand. To the surprise of the hero team, he actually speaks. We would have failed without Midoriya. He was fundamental to us winning, and it's not good to put all of your eggs in one basket. Aizawa nods approvingly. Yes, Midoriya did an excellent job of spreading out your talents, but it didn't help your leadership skills much. While his plans were good, criticism can always help make a plan better. Don't forget that you have your own opinions, and they are allowed to be voiced. Vlad King nods approvingly. That was the major flaw with the villains. What about the heroes? Aizawa nods to the shame-faced hero team. Before any of them can speak, Midoriya's hand is raised. Aizawa motions for him to speak. They made quite a few mistakes, but the reason they made most those mistakes is because they underestimated the villains. Izuku smiles at the heroes, who visibly flinch at the judgment in his eyes. That's correct. The heroes made plenty of mistakes, all of which we'll talk about today. But what made those mistakes happen was underestimating your classmates. Aizawa turns on the projector and pictures slide across. It shows pictures after picture of the heroes goofing off. All of these were taken during your 1-month preparation. I won't lie, I am severely disappointed in the heroes. The villains used every ounce of prep time while you slacked off. The hero team shuffles. Vlad King speaks next. I'm sure the heroes wish to hear about all the mistakes the villains made, but there are virtually none. The heroes gasp. They utilized excellent teamwork. They prepared for every eventuality, most of which didn't even come to pass. They used their resources, and they did research on the heroes' weaknesses. They wanted to win, and they proved that with every action. Each of them had something to prove. Aizawa growls, and another slideshow pops up. This time, it's of the villains, all of them doing various tasks. Momo and Monoma creating raw resources, Mei creating costume after costume, Denki learning to control his electricity, Koda with his animals. More and more pass, and some the villains are even throwing up. They pushed themselves to the limits, and then pushed past even more. They grew exponentially during this test, which is why they are dismissed. But the hero team, we are going to comb through each mistake. I believe all of you learned valuable lessons you will never forget. But just in case, we're going to go over those lessons. The heroes cry in dismay as the villains gleefully get up, chattering about going for ramen. But none of them really protest, because it's true. They performed miserably. After the villain team is gone, the hero teachers begin to speak again. Some of you made more mistakes than others, and this is going to be a while, so get ready to be here for a long time. We will also be going over ways to improve. This isn't just a tongue lashing, don't worry. Let's start with this group of heroes. Jirota, Kinoko, Sato, Aoyama, Hagakure, Ojiro, Jiro, Mineta, Tetsu, Awasa, Kayabara, Shiozaki, Kosai, Manga, Kojiro, and Brin. You barely did anything, which is bullshit. Let me say this, all of you are incredibly talented young heroes who are innovative and creative. And yet, when faced with a leader and others you considered stronger and who could deal with it, you were content to sit back. All of you failed because you did nothing. You had no initiative. There's not even much to criticize because you didn't do anything. Jiro Hagakure, you would have been perfect for reconnaissance. Next time, use your talents. You're here for a reason, so don't be fucking intimidated. Tears in their eyes, the called-out group of heroes nod in shame. Yes, Vlad-sensei. Yes, Aizawa-sensei. Don't forget that you bring strengths to the team. Jirata, you never look ahead. Don't just chase after something with a one-minded intensity. Maybe then you won't be knocked out of commission by someone listening to Taylor Swift. Vlad-sensei barks. Some of you did pass, though. Sue and Ida. Ida, you took initiative when Bakugo was knocked unconscious. And Sue, you tried to attack when everyone else was frozen. But because you didn't take any time to repair, you still lost. And when Bakugo was up to take charge again, you stopped with the initiative. Ida and Sue nod. All of you underestimated and unprepared. You didn't set patrols until it was too late. Your base was invaded and you didn't even notice. You were all poisoned. You all could have been taken out in one day by one person. The villains were effectively toying with you. Aizawa smirks at the queasy look at the mention of being poisoned. Kendo, good job at rallying people's hopes. Kirishima, you sacrificed yourself for the good of the game, but you underestimated Denki. Both of you scraped by. Todoroki, you barely did anything but argue with Bakugo, and Bakugo glares at his desk. You performed the worst out of all of them. Brute strength is not everything, and you will need help in your life even if you do manage to become the #1 hero. You treated your teammates like trash. You continued to make mistake after mistake and used terrible leadership in general. Your whole team resented you. But you learned your lesson, I think. Hopefully it will stick. It goes on like that for hours. Aizawa and Vlad tearing into every single mistake they made. Mina even starts crying while in the middle of it and has to be excused for a while. Sarah, out of all the heroes, you didn't underestimate them, but you also didn't take a leadership position. Don't just sit back. It's not heroic. You need to have initiative. Still, you pass. Eventually, hours later, the hero teachers stop, and for once, Aizawa graces them with a smile. You have a lot of work to do, but this wasn't a waste of time. As much as you could have done better, you have learned valuable lessons, one of which is to not underestimate your opponent. It will get you killed. I can tell you're willing to grow and improve. It's why you're still here. I suggest you begin to take advantage of your resources, your teachers, your classmates, and even Midoriya. He has a way of bringing out the best in people. Don't let your anger and bitterness get in the way of that. Yes, sensei, they all chorus. With that, they are dismissed. They disappear, their hearts somehow lighter. Yes, they sat through hours being shown what they did wrong, but they have so much room to grow, and isn't that exciting? And some are curious as to why the villains chose the villain side. Mina is one of those people, and so she immediately sinks out Denki, who looks apprehensive. Denki! Oh, hey, Mina. I'm sorry for how I treated you. Oh, well, thank you for the apology. Denki smiles. Maybe he can still be friends with his old friends. But why did you feel the need to join the villain side? I mean, I know you won, but... Denki sighs. Mina has some serious growing as a person before that can happen first, though. Because, Mina, none of you believed in me. All you expected of me was to be a charger. Izuku showed me that I'm not dumb, or a sidekick, or something to be laughed at. With that, he walks away, leaving a gobsmacked Mina. She hadn't realized they had made him feel like that. Other interactions like that happen all over campus, but some go better than others. Some of the villains joined only because they didn't want to go against Midoriya himself, but others wanted to prove themselves, wanted to show they are more than anyone thinks. And at the end of the night, the former villain team joins up for a movie night with a few new additions, like Sarah, because they understand each other. And because they're going to stick together no matter what. After all, they are the villain team. Midoriya and Nezu's meeting. So, I have conditions. Of course, I'm sure we can come to a prosperous relationship. I want Shinso with me. Done. I won't be your personal student, and that is non-negotiable. He adds on when Nezu seems ready to argue. Only if you do an internship with me. Midoriya purses his lips. Only if you do an internship with me. Midoriya purses his lips. Fine. I also want the keys to the secret tunnels. Nezu laughs at that. None of the students had realized he had secret tunnels before. Gladly. Anything else? I want to be roomed next to Monoma and Denki. And I want to be able to choose what class I want to go to any day. One day I might want to go to Aizawa's, and the other I might do Vlad's. That's acceptable. And I want out of Ectoplasm's math class. I can do an online course. If you must, anything else? Midoriya thinks for a while. No. Nezu gladly shakes his hand. Well, it's better than I thought I would get, but I do have a condition of my own. Midoriya scowls. What? You have to be adopted by Aizawa and Imada. Midoriya blanches and begins to sputter. Finally, something legible leaves his mouth. I'm sorry, what? You heard me. You live in a foster home. It would be easier for you to have a permanent placement, but more importantly, you need a loving home and someone you trust. Aizawa wasn't going to bring up adopting you until he discerned that you felt the same way, but I find it a waste of time. Midoriya, who had begun to relax when Nezu said it was just so he had a permanent placement, once again freezes. No? Then our deal is null and void. Midoriya scowls. Midoriya-san, I'm not doing this to be cruel, and Aizawa and Imada aren't trying to trick you. You deserve a happy home life. Ugh, fine. And that is how Midoriya is adopted by our favorite grumpy cat-loving caterpillar and becomes a part of the hero course. It's not perfect, but when Midoriya sees all of his friends' happy faces, he's reminded of how much he wants to help others, and that is why he ultimately decides to be a hero. Because everyone was wrong. He can be a quirkless hero, and it was time he proved it to everyone else as well. Whew. That's it. That's the end of The Art of War by EveryShadeOfHappy on Archive of Our Own. I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and Happy New Year to everyone who, celebrates that, I guess. Since I know, some people, I know in China, New Year, they don't celebrate New Year until, April or May or something. But, yeah. I'm going to link the fanfiction in the description. So make sure to check out Every Shade of Happy, because they're an amazing author. And they have a lot of really good fanfictions, and not just for My Hero Academia. They have, I want to say 2 other fandoms they write for. Don't quote me on that. Could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's 2 other ones. I think that's all. So I hope you enjoyed listening. And if you have any suggestions for fanfictions that I should read next, put them in the comments. Yeah, that's it. Bye.